We've all seen well-written genocidal villains like Aku, Lord Shen, Fire Lord Ozai, and even Bill Cipher. But the Lich is the purest, most terrifying example of one in modern animation. In fact, when we begin to reveal the several layers of writing that make him that way, it all starts to make sense in a shocking way. So why is this the case? How do you write a genocidal villain like the Lich? And what does Adventure Time understand that so many writers don't? In Adventure Time, the Lich is the main antagonist. He is an ancient being tied to death and destruction, who views himself as the last scholar of Golb. This Golb, by the way, is a cosmic embodiment of chaos, a mysterious force that the Lich worships, and their dynamic will later help us explain the ultimate truth about the Lich. The most important thing to note for now is where the Lich came from. You see, long before Finn, Jake, or even the land of U existed, a catalyst comet carried the essence of the Lich to Earth. Millions of years later, after the Mushroom War reduced much of the planet to ruins, a mutagenic bomb was dropped into the world, creating a radioactive puddle that gave the Lich his physical form. But Adventure Time does something very smart with him after this event. The movie made him a legend before he became an active threat. In Season 1, Episode 25, Billy, the greatest hero in U's history, tells the story of how he defeated a monster called the Lich King. During the flashback, Billy punches him through a tower, smashes him into amber, and seals him away. So it seems the battle is already over by the time we arrive. Then Season 2 arrives, and everything changes. In the episode Mortal Folly, Princess Bubblegum brings Finn and Jake into a hidden chamber inside a giant tree. She explains that the Lich once tried to destroy U and wipe out all life, but now he is trapped inside amber in the tree. She reveals that there are special gems that protect people from his spells, because the Lich can possess living creatures and bend them to his will. Now, take note of this particular detail about the Lich because we will need it later. Anyway, when Princess Bubblegum talked, everything sounded under control, right? Well, not really, because soon, a snail that had accompanied the heroes was possessed by the Lich. This snail ends up breaking the amber, and suddenly, one of the most dangerous entities in the world is free again. But where things get interesting is when we fast forward to the Season 6 episode, Wake Up. At first glance, the Lich looks defeated. Actually, defeated is putting it lightly. The guy is sitting on the floor inside Prismo's time room. He stays completely still, looking exactly like a broken machine. His eyes stare into space, and his hands do not move a single inch, almost like somebody unplugged him.
He's stuck in a standstill, like a machine without a purpose.
This is a very important scene to deliberate on because right there and then we are shown the effects of purposelessness. The Lich, despite his incredible power, is totally useless to the point that lesser characters can toy around with him. But what does this teach us about the first thing to do when writing a genocidal villain? To understand this, we have to go back to the end of Season 4. In that episode, the Lich tricked Finn into opening a portal to Prismo's time room. His objective was simple: reach Prismo, make a wish, and end all life. Once inside, he got exactly what he wanted because Prismo granted the wish. But then, Finn tried to undo the damage by wishing the Lich never existed. That created the farm world reality. Events spiraled from there until Jake finally used a wish of his own. Jake wished that the Lich's wish had been for Finn and Jake to return home, but the result was unexpected. Finn and Jake went back to U, leaving the Lich behind, and just like that, he became trapped inside Prismo's time room. No more wishes, no way home, no universe to destroy, no life to extinguish. This brings us back to the Wake Up episode, because this might be the single most important lesson here. You see, the Lich sits there because he has no purpose. The Catalyst Comet origin frames him as a single-function being from birth, which gives us the initial explanation. However, Prismo explains it better for us. He says that the Lich functions like a machine, with his entire existence revolving around ending life. So, because his singular fundamental purpose is to destroy all life, he found himself in a paradox. In a universe where his wish was already granted and no life existed to destroy, he had no function. So, Prismo kept him confined in the time room, effectively rendering him a machine without a mission. The Lich still possesses all his power, intelligence, and knowledge, yet none of it matters because he lacks a direction, a why. With that, Adventure Time is essentially teaching us the first thing about creating a genocidal villain, which is to give them a reason for being. We see this exact same rule of writing when we look at other legendary villains across animation history. Fire Lord Ozai burns down nations because his entire purpose revolves around absolute colonial dominance and family legacy. Lord Shen wipes out an entire panda race because his motivation stems from a deep desire to conquer his own fate and outrun a prophecy. Aku inflicts centuries of suffering because his reason for being is to spread the absolute rule of darkness across the universe. Bill Cipher tears dimensions apart because his mind craves the ultimate freedom of pure, unadulterated chaos. Every single one of these monsters becomes unforgettable because their creators put a powerful driving why behind their quest for destruction. And this is why what happens next in Adventure Time makes absolute sense. You see, the Lich soon discovers an opportunity when Finn and Jake start looking for a way to wake Prismo's true body.
Okay, let's do it. It still feels like a bad idea, man. Psh, what could go wrong?
Well, the Lich could go wrong. He knows that waking a Wishmaster counts as a cosmic crime, and that will earn him a one-way trip to the Crystal Citadel. He needs movement, targets, and a stage with stakes, and the Citadel offers the worst of the worst in one place. So when Finn and Jake touch the wrong thread and Prismo opens his eyes, it's over. Eventually, Prismo dies, the Lich gets transported away, and the moment a purpose returns, so does the villain. That is an incredible piece of writing because it shows motivation through action rather than dialogue. Nobody needed a speech explaining how important purpose is when the story perfectly demonstrates it. When the Lich has a goal, he becomes unstoppable. When the goal disappears, he becomes a statue. Simple. Every genocidal villain can learn from this. Mass murder alone creates a shallow character, but purpose creates a memorable one. And the really fascinating part is that Adventure Time kept dropping hints that there is something deeper hiding underneath that purpose. But where things get interesting is what the Lich shows us after he leaves the Wish Room. In the episode Escape from the Citadel, Finn and Jake find themselves standing inside one of the strangest places in the entire Adventure Time universe. Crystal cells stretch in every direction, and some of the worst beings in the cosmos, including the Lich, sit trapped inside them. Earlier, he had successfully escaped the Wish Room, and with his purpose restored, he had been claimed by the Citadel. Then something weird starts going on. Gray slime begins leaking from his crystal prison, with some of it entering the nearby cells, causing the prisoners to change.
He's melting the crystal all up! Breaking cats out, nothing he likes!
The prisoners turn the same sickly gray color, and before long, the entire Citadel is falling apart. This is the power of the Lich announcing itself without a single word, and we see this throughout Adventure Time. The Lich rarely needs to attack directly to make an impact. Plants wither when he passes through a forest, fish rot across Iceberg Lake as he approaches, and fires dim near him. Even his victories often come through corruption, possession, and influence rather than brute force. The Lich creates destruction simply by being present, which is vital because the most memorable threats let the environment do the talking for them. That's an important lesson for writing a genocidal villain, especially one of this much cosmic effect. You have to give them abilities like what the Lich commands, even while he is stuck in a frozen prison. But the Escape from the Citadel episode teaches us another lesson about cosmic power. You see, when Finn and Jake first enter the Citadel, they discover somebody Finn has spent years searching for. His father, Martin Mertens. He is trapped inside one of the crystal cells.
He looks just like you. Man, look at his clothes.
Daddy!
try to bring to Martin's attention that he has a son, but Martin doesn't give a shit. Instead, he runs away to save his own skin, completely abandoning Finn. Then the Lich finally steps out of his prison, and soon we get one of the most famous moments in the entire series. A single word, fall, and instantly Finn and Jake collapse on the floor.
Fall.
The power itself is terrifying, but what truly sells the moment is how effortlessly it happens. It was just a command delivered with absolute certainty. The moment became legendary among fans, largely due to the brilliant voice acting of Ron Perlman. His performance gives the character an unmatched presence. So when you write a genocidal villain, the voice needs to carry that exact type of absolute certainty. Listen to other guys like Lord Shen and Fire Lord Ozai, and you get that same finality and confidence in their voices. These two traits create far more fear than rage because a screaming villain still sounds weak, whereas an utterly calm and confident one is chilling to hear. Adventure Time understands this perfectly. Throughout the series, the Lich rarely talks. Most appearances give him only a handful of lines. And because of that, every word carries weight. But aside from a chilling voice, the visual design of your creature needs to establish an immediate sense of decay and ancient power. The Lich uses a highly stylized, minimalist silhouette that stands out instantly. Tight, greenish-gray skin stretches across exposed bones to emphasize a mummified body. Sunken, pitch-black eye sockets glow with a toxic green light to signal intense magical power. Then there's an oversized horned helmet sitting on top of his head, establishing his ancient status as a ruler of the dead. Even the tattered, flowing robes draped over his shoulders give him a giant, imposing shape on screen. Everything about that design suggests death. The Lich works because his silhouette tells the story immediately. You could remove every line of dialogue and still understand what he represents.
He's evil! He's not even trying to hide it, bro!
Another important part of the Lich's persona is his personality. We already established that he doesn't waste words. That trait adds to his personality as a cold, calculating, and patient force of nature. He operates as a deep, methodical planner, using his lack of aging to wait centuries for the perfect moment to strike. This patient nature allows him to learn from his mistakes. He also tracks down anyone who caused problems for him in the past, either destroying their weapons or turning those people into mindless pawns. Then, in addition to the power he exhibited earlier in the Citadel, he utilizes shapeshifting and possession to move through the world undetected. He takes over the mind of a small, innocent snail to crack open his amber prison from the inside. The creature stays hidden inside that tiny body for multiple seasons, quietly gathering power while the heroes remain completely oblivious. Later on, the Lich disguises himself as the beloved legendary hero Billy before he is exposed. He even possesses Princess Bubblegum, turning her skin a pale blue color and making her drink toxic chemicals to transform into a giant monster. This constant switching of shapes makes him an unpredictable threat, showing that the monster can hide behind any familiar face. Arrogance stands as his only major flaw, which leads him to underestimate his opponents. In any case, creating a genocidal villain like the Lich requires you to come up with a legendary force of nature. Your audience will stay glued to the screen, waiting to see how the heroes can possibly survive a confrontation with absolute cosmic evil. But once that is done, you will need your hero for this next part. The Catalyst Comet gives a soul to Finn in the comet, and an older comet once carried the spark that became the Lich. Same cosmic source, different paths taken. Finn grows up saving people, sword in hand, ready to protect anyone who needs help. However, the Lich wakes from ruins after the Mushroom War and walks toward the extinction of all life. That single contrast sets the temperature for every scene they share. This is an important next step for writing a genocidal villain because the conflict becomes deeply personal when the villain stands as a dark mirror of the hero. Their contrasting beliefs crash into each other, other every time they share a frame, and that crash teaches the audience what both of them truly are. Another vital part here is to make the mirror visible in their smaller choices. For example, Finn keeps his promises even when he loses his hand or his weapon breaks. He carries love in the shape of a sweater and in the shape of a laugh with Jake on a bad day, whereas the Lich keeps pressing on even when a plan fails. He finds new hosts like the snail, wears Billy's body, studies rules, then breaks a cosmic one to force a trip to the Citadel. Both adapt, but in ways that match their core. Interestingly, this concept of a thematic mirror extends far beyond the borders of OO, appearing across many of the greatest animated adventures in history. Think about the fiery clash between Avatar Aang and Fire Lord Ozai in the Avatar saga. Aang embodies the peaceful preservation of life, balance, and the harmony of nature, while Ozai represents the total opposite, seeking to burn down entire nations to achieve supreme dominance. This exact dynamic creates a powerful battle of ideas, forcing the young monk to find a way to take away Ozai's power peacefully instead of resorting to lethal violence. We see another incredible mirror image when we look at the rivalry between Po and Lord Shen in Kung Fu Panda 2. Po and Shen are reflections of each other because they were both shaped by the same childhood tragedy. Shen's attack on the Panda Village led to Po being separated from his parents, while Shen was cast out by his own family after his actions. Both grew up carrying the scars of that day, but their difference lies in how they respond to that pain. Po confronts his past, accepts it, and finds inner peace, whereas Shen spends his life trying to outrun a prophecy. Ironically, his attempt to prevent the rise of the warrior of black and white helped create Po, the very hero destined to defeat him. So one heals from trauma, the other is consumed by it. Even Samurai Jack faces a dark reflection of his inner purpose whenever he clashes with the shape-shifting master of darkness, Aku. Jack travels through time as a symbol of unchanging discipline, honor, and hope, while his shadow opponent represents deceit, tyranny, and despair. These examples prove that a memorable genocidal villain must always serve as the ultimate test for your protagonist's beliefs, which would transform a mere physical fight into a massive debate about right and wrong. But once you have the purpose, persona, and thematic mirrors in place, the ideal thing would be to orchestrate the end of the villain, right? Well, while the Lich does see his end eventually, Adventure Time decided to do something better with him. And this single choice is one of the few things that separates him from other villains. In the spin-off show Fiona and Cake, the story brings us completely full circle during the Season 1 episode Jerry T. In it, Simon Petrikov, Fiona, and Cake walk through a completely silent alternate universe searching for a magical crown. Green trees, sweet candy citizens, and breathing creatures are entirely gone from the landscape. And in their place, gray dust covers the entire world because of a catastrophe that occurred in the past. Bimo lives alone inside a decaying treehouse, playing old videotapes to pass the time. This little machine explains that every single person mysteriously turned into a skeleton one afternoon. Bimo later mentions a strange entity named Jerry who lives inside a deep pit near the kingdom. So the travelers decide to visit this mysterious figure to seek help with a broken cross-dimensional remote control. Simon leads Fiona and Cake down into a dark, rocky cavern to find Jerry. And as they journey into the cave, dozens of human skeletons litter the stone floor. They soon reach the end of the cave, where they spot a giant creature which they initially think is Jerry. But Simon gasps in absolute horror because Jerry is actually the ultimate master of death, the Lich.
Run! Cease.
The Lich observes the return of the ancient ice wizard, remembering how he would have killed them in the past, but instead of attacking the travelers, he releases them. Simon soon realizes a tragic truth about the state of the villain. He noted that the Lich achieved his grand goal, successfully wiping out every single cell of living matter across the planet.
He's called the Lich. He must have succeeded in killing all life here.
Unfortunately, this complete victory left him in a state of profound depression because his purpose had been fulfilled. So now he just sits like a broken machine in the dark cave, staring blankly into space, just like he was in Prismo's time room. And just like in that room, something unexpected happens here too. Things took a wild turn when Simon initiated the ritual to save Fiona and Cake, which gets the Lich excited again. A bright portal opens, transporting Simon directly into the red dimension of the chaos god Golb. The Lich watches in silence before following into that cosmic realm. It's here that we get the most insane part of the Lich's story. You see, when Simon wakes up in Golb's dimension, he finds the Lich kneeling before Golb, praying. But soon his prayer turns into a cry for help. The Lich complains that he has successfully studied all the ways of Golb and has now finished his mission. Yet he got no satisfaction from this.
But it gave me no satisfaction. In succeeding, I lost all purpose.
But when Golb wouldn't answer him immediately, the Lich gets angry and screams and hits the platform he was kneeling on. This gets the attention of Golb, who is revealed to be Golbetti, a massive red force of nature. Golb looks down at the loyal scholar for a brief second, and instead of giving him the answer he desperately wants, transforms him into a green Tetris block. And just like that, the Lich is no more. The Lich's greatest mistake was thinking that eliminating all life would please a god of chaos, but life represents the most chaotic, unpredictable element in any reality. People make wild choices, spark wars, fall in love, and create endless conflict every single day. So Golb kills the Lich because he completely misunderstood this fact. By extinguishing every single breathing creature, the villain brought a stagnant, permanent silence to his world.
To build mountains of bodies in your honor, to extinguish all life.
This quiet void represents the exact opposite of the thriving, noisy chaos that Golb represents. What this tells us at the end of the day is that writing a genocidal villain comes down to purpose. It is purpose that starts the genocide, and it is the purpose of the hero that will end it. But if the genocidal villain succeeds in their mission, they will lose that purpose, which still leads to their end.
What more could I have done? What do you want from me now?
Lord Shen is like this as well. He had a purpose to rewrite his destiny, but failed when the hero found inner peace. So when Poe offered him a chance to right his wrongs, he didn't accept it because what then would he do with his life? He would be purposeless. So he doubles down and attacks Poe one last time. And when during their fight, he sees his own cannon falling towards him, he doesn't get out of the way. He just closes his eyes and accepts his death, because that is better than not fulfilling his purpose. So yeah, purpose, folks. That's the ultimate ingredient of a genocidal villain. The Lich spends his story hiding in plain sight as a force of nature, but in our previous video, we looked at villains who hide in plain sight for a completely different reason. Go check it out now.